For as long as he could remember, Jacob had been consumed with finding a way to acquire the rights to his twin brother Esau's inheritance. Now, through trickery and deceit, and some help from his mother, Jacob had succeeded. But because his brother Esau was understandably furious, even promising to kill him, Jacob had been forced to leave his home in Canaan, and he was now traveling east to his mother's homeland. Earlier in his journey, the Lord had appeared to Jacob in a powerful dream, extending to him the same promises that he had made to his father Isaac and his grandfather Abraham. God's presence was so real to him there that Jacob named the place Bethel, House of God. And what had before been to Jacob mere ambition was now becoming a spiritual pursuit. Jacob was journeying to a place called Padan Aram to meet his mother's brother Laban and try to start a new life with him. At last, he was approaching a place that he thought might be his uncle Laban's town. He saw a well in a field with a large stone covering the well's mouth. Several flocks of sheep were lying on the ground near the well, and their keepers were standing around casually talking. Jacob greeted them. "Hello there! Can you tell me what town this is?" The shepherds told him, "This is Haran." Haran. That's exactly what Jacob was hoping to hear. "Do you happen to know a man named Laban, the son of Nahor?" "Sure, we know him." Jacob asked, "How is he?" "He's doing just fine. In fact, those are his sheep coming over the ridge right now, and that's Laban's daughter Rachel leading them." Jacob glanced in the direction the men were pointing, and then he asked the shepherds, "Tell me, why aren't you watering your flocks?" So they explained, "We generally wait until all the area flocks arrive, then we move the stone away and water them all at once." Just about then, Rachel and her flock were nearing the well, and for the first time, Jacob got a good look at her face. He was instantly smitten by her beauty. He didn't say a word to her. He walked over to the well, moved the large stone by himself, and drew water for her entire flock. When Jacob finished watering her sheep, he walked over to Rachel, kissed her on the cheek, and began weeping loudly. When he had gained his composure, Jacob spoke to Rachel. "We're family. My mother Rebekah is the sister of your father Laban." An expression of surprise erupted on Rachel's face as she turned and ran away, disappearing over the ridge. Jacob wasn't sure what to think. He picked up his things and began to lead Rachel's flock in the direction that she had fled. Before too long, Rachel came running over the ridge again, with her father Laban close behind her. Laban ran right up to Jacob, gave him a big hug, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "Come on back to the house." As they sat around the table, Jacob filled them all in on the details of his family's story. Laban said, "You're definitely my flesh and blood." Jacob stayed with Laban's family for a while, getting to know them better and helping them with daily tasks on their farm. After about a month, Laban said, "Jacob, just because you're family doesn't mean you shouldn't be getting paid for all the work you're doing. Tell me, what would you like your pay to be?" Jacob had clearly been waiting for Laban to ask because he was ready with the answer. "After I've worked for you for 7 years, give me your daughter Rachel's hand in marriage." Laban thought for a second, and then he gave a less than enthusiastic reply. "I guess she could do worse than you. Okay, it's a deal." Day and night, Jacob could hardly think about anything else but Rachel. 7 years of diligent labor seemed to him a very small price to pay to win the privilege of marrying the girl of his dreams. When the 7 years were complete, Jacob told Laban, "I've kept my part of the deal. Now give me my wife." Laban invited all of his friends and neighbors to a beautiful wedding celebration for his daughter and her husband-to-be. When the party was over, Laban brought his daughter to the wedding suite that had been prepared for her, and after a little while, he sent Jacob to the room for them to spend their first night of marriage together. The next morning, when the sun rose and light filled the room, Jacob made an alarming discovery. Laban hadn't given his daughter Rachel to Jacob. Laban had given Jacob his oldest daughter, Leah. Jacob raced out of the room and found Laban. "You tricked me. We agreed on your daughter Rachel, but instead you gave me Leah. This isn't right." Laban said, "Take it easy, Jacob. Please understand, in our country, it's customary to give the older daughter in marriage first. But if you'll work for me 7 more years, you can marry Rachel also. Jacob was reaping what he had sown. The swindler had now been swindled. So Jacob worked for Laban 7 more years, and at last he was permitted to marry his true love, Rachel. Rachel would always be the focus of Jacob's adoration. And though Jacob would have sons by 3 other women, Rachel's sons, Joseph and Benjamin, were clearly his favorites. Rachel died giving birth to Benjamin as the family was journeying to revisit Bethel. She's buried near Bethlehem. Christian, trust God to write the story of your life. Stay the course.